the wonderful. We never talk about this, actually. We never talk about this area of our politics. The Central Bucks School Board. It is never a topic on this show because we have such sane politics on the school board. So, as you see here, we're going to have 5 different regions up for election. I actually, while I'm doing this, I'm gonna talk to you, and I'm gonna pull up something really quick because, frankly, it'll be better than my quick math. Okay, here we go. All right, as CB said in the chat, he goes, "Why was Stephen Mass the first name on the Democratic side, even though he was a Republican?" Well, as we talked about a little bit last week, I know maybe he's always in chat, but he might have been distracted. I don't know what he was doing. But as for those who missed last week, for school board and for certain races, you are allowed to cross-file. So even if somebody is a Democrat, they will appear on the Republican side. So you'll see here, the top in the blue is the Democratic ballot side. In the red is the Republican ballot vote. So, in this district here, you see Stephen Mass, who is the Republican, but on the Democratic side, getting 9.64% of the vote. So, Karen Smith, who is the incumbent from Region 1, got 90.3% of 36% of the vote, the Democratic side. Now, we flip it. We go to the Republican side. Stephen Mass with 1,305 votes. Karen Smith getting 251 votes, 16% of the vote. Well, what that equates to is, and I will show you here, is Karen Smith getting 1,770 votes. I know it might be hard for some of you to see. To Stephen Mass's 1,467 votes. So when you combine the numbers, Karen comes out on top. That is a good sign. I'll give you my full analysis here once we look at all of them. I believe Karen had the lowest actually crossover. And even with it, she still has a good percentage of that Republican vote. That's a good sign. Heather Reynolds in Region 2 in Buckingham going against, I know Shaz's favorite, Dana Hunter, the star of the school board meetings. Heather got 1,377 votes, meaning 93.55% of the vote to Dana Hunter's 95. But when we flip it and we go to the Republican side, we see that Heather Reynolds picks up 21.66% of the Republican vote. So yes, the incumbent Republican is going to be the Republican nominee. But in a primary election, if you see that 21.66% of Republicans voted for the challenger Democrat, that should be telling you something. Now let's look at the numbers. In total, Heather Reynolds gets 1,706 votes to Dana Hunter's 1,280 votes. A near 500 vote margin between the two. That is huge. And I will go, so the question in chat, what explains the Republicans going to Karen Smith? I will talk to you about that when we look at all of them combined, because this is really good sign for us. If you care about democracy, if you care about free speech, if you care about the schools, if you care about all that stuff, you care about LGBTQ plus rights issues, you care about parents, you care about kids in schools, you care about teachers, this is a very good sign. But I'm going to talk to you about why this happened after we look at all of them. Because guess what? In region, this is an interesting one too. Region 3, Dana Foley is the endorsed Democratic candidate. You have Patricia Carmen, who was a self-proclaimed moderate Republican. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not. And then there's the actual Republican candidate that is endorsed by the Martino Foundation. And I'm saying that, of course, tongue-in-cheek, because I don't know what the hell Paul Martino's actual functioning PAC is called. It's just, well, I'm sure everyone in chat will be able to identify it, but Martino Inc., this is his candidate, getting 81 votes. So he got less than the non-endorsed Republican on the Democratic side. So that tells you something, because even then on the Republican side, Dana Foley coming out with more votes than the other Republican, Patricia Carmen, getting 19.88% of the Republican vote, 335 votes of the Republican side. That is a definitely not insignificant amount of votes. So when we go to the tail of the tape, we have Dana Foley, 1,988 votes to Glenn Schlofel's 1,314. Over 600 votes in favor of the Democratic nominee. This is big, okay? But just you wait, because when we go to my jurisdiction, when we come over to where me and people like Steve Sullivan and without a doubt the candidates themselves, we'll start with Rick Herring, who has turned out to be an absolute beast of a candidate, and I promise you we will have him on the show, pulling up with 95.75% of the vote. Trust me, I see you in chat, Jordan. I am not saying that we are super safe. We will get there. Let me finish, and we will get there. But I'm just hyping it up because we should feel good about this. We should feel excited about this. I have never felt good about an election day after the day after, besides today, basically. Today is the most excited I've felt about the results of specifically a primary election, because this is saying that we have a shot. Does not mean that we have it locked down, but it means that we have a chance. I will never say that we have easy wins. You'll never see me say that. But Rick Herring going against the wife of Paul Martino, which I don't mean to boil her down to that, but frankly, I'm sorry. That's what people are looking at. And this is an absolute drudging. 1,893 votes to 82 votes. And on the Republican side, Rick Herring, the Democratic candidate, got 481 votes to Artie's, that's how you say her name. Artie's 970 votes. He got 33% of the Republican vote. This is extremely good. When we go to the total amount of votes here, Rick Herring, the Democratic candidate, 2,374. Artie Martino, the Republican, the extremist Republican, 1,052. That is a 1,300 vote margin in favor of Rick Herring. Remember, we are running people that are talking about sanity, bringing back moderation, frankly. They're not talking about being the most extreme leftist, Marxist, blah, blah, blah. No, we want to restore sanity to our school boards because our schools were great before the pride flag bans, before the book bans, before firing teachers for supporting our trans youth, before all this stuff. And we're going to fix the problems that we had before the $1 million lawsuit that was spent on some BS investigation. Last but not least, the biggest drudging of them all. We have Susan Gibson, who is a lawyer here in Doylestown, against Tony OHanlon, getting Susan 2,299 votes on the Democratic side to Tony's 99. She got 2,200 more votes on the Democratic side, which, of course, okay, Connor, you're just hyping it up. Susan also getting into the 30% range, 31.51% of the Republican ballot goes for Susan. When we look at the total numbers, 2,662 votes for Susan Gibson to 878. 2,662 to 878. An absolute great sign for us if you care about these issues on the school board. Now, let me address what Jordan is bringing up in chat. We can look at these numbers and we can get complacent. We can say, well, look, we did it. This is it. We're good. We're going to cruise and we're going to win, and these are great numbers. We could say that. We could. But the thing is if I tell you that I go to the back, we'll go back, right? When we go to, let's use the Register of Wills, okay? When we go to this comparison, we have a county-wide surplus of Democrats compared to Republicans. Roughly 12,000 of them throughout the county more Democrats voted than Republicans. I don't know that I have an explanation for what seems to be a rather low Republican turnout. I have to say that if having a contested commissioner's race on the Republican side does not turn people out, I don't know what that means for turnout in November. I do think that a lot of Democrats are turning out, and this kind of goes back to what CB was asking in the chat. The Democrats, because remember, independents cannot vote in primaries. That's something that we also have to remember. But Democrats are angry about what is going on throughout the county, and they're not blaming Biden. They're mad because they see the extremists that are taking over your local school boards and they're taking over your local municipal boards. They see the people coming with these MAGA hats and all the pins and all this stuff going to school boards and going to commissioners' meetings and going to local municipal meetings and harassing people, harassing their staffs, etc. If, and this is a big if we can keep the turnout in this, with this, difference, the delta between the Democrats and the Republicans here, we keep this gap similar, because remember, 26% is in a primary. If we got to like 40% turnout, which is about, that'd be probably pretty good for a municipal race, 40 to 45%. But we kept this gap, we would be in very good shape. Based on the swing, and I'm talking specifically now about the school board, but based on the amount of folks that said, you know what, we're rejecting extremism, we're choosing to bring our schools, we want our schools to be like what they were when our kids were there, or like when I was there. We had great schools. My parents moved us here because that's why we wanted to move here to go to the schools. This county is the epicenter of the extremists coming for school boards. So if this tells us anything, it says that the messaging that the Democrats are putting out is working. And the message has to be between now and November that you watching this, maybe you listening to this, you live in the area, if you live in Central Bucks, or you don't, find a way to get involved. Even if you don't live here, if you live outside of Bucks County, you don't even live, you might live across the state. Or you might live across the country. But this extremism doesn't stop here. This is a testing ground. This is their incubator. The way that I said that Allegheny County is an incubator for progressive thought, Central Bucks is the incubator right now for the radical right wing. Central Bucks, Penn Ridge, Council Rock, we're at this epicenter of a far-right movement. So if we want to win these races, and we need to win at least four, I would love to see us win all 5. We need to win at least 4 of these school board races to flip this control of the board. We have to convince reasonable Republicans, which, yes, reasonable Republican voters still exist. They're elected officials. Not so much. But reasonable Republican voters, the fiscal conservatives, that they actually are not, they're not just saying that they're socially liberal. They do exist out there. Obviously, they're not all of them, but they do exist. We can pick those people up and say, you know what, you're welcome on our side. We'll disagree about tax policy, but look, we care about our kids. That's going to win those races. And if we win the school board races, we will win the commissioner's race. And if we win the commissioner's race, we will probably look pretty good across the state. I believe that with my whole heart. But we have to. And this is, if you are for some reason a strategist for the Democratic Party and you don't listen to me normally, but you are listening to this show right now, we have to target some Republicans and we have to target independents. And we have to make sure that we turn out our Democratic voters. There are more people that believe in the progressive ideas and the progressive way of life than there are that believe in this radical nonsense that they're perpetuating on the school boards across the county.